Hey everybody, Big Toad here, and welcome to this video. What we're going to do today is paint this tree. I blocked it in with a gray, one of the grays I used on the sky or the mountains. And I'm coming in now with a slightly darker gray, and I use titanium white and ivory black to create my grays. Ivory black is just a fast way to create grays with titanium white. You avoid a lot of mixing just by incorporating your ivory black, and that's basically why I had ivory black on my list of colors, is just to make lots of grays. And so the base color for this tree is going to be this gray that I'm putting in its impasto, and I have three grays I've mixed up: a dark, a medium, and a light. And so I'm going to use those three colors to go around the tree from the dark side on the right to the light side on the left. And so that's what you see me doing here, working up this tree with a well-loaded brush. I'm using impasto techniques to paint this tree. Now you see the other painting going on around it, and I just pulled out all the video on this tree itself, so you'll see the rest of the painting develop as we move along. But the impasto method is one of my favorite ways of painting, and it works really well to create this effect of bark on your tree and some vitality and movement within your colors. Impasto painting is using thicker paint when you lay it down on your canvas or board. It is more than just emphasis on the brush strokes, but also on the thickness of the paint. So now here I'm actually coming in with green, and I'm using, this is going to be a broken color tree, and every color in this tree I will have used somewhere else in this painting. So that green I put down on the lower bark was a color of green that I used on that bank over there across the stream. Another thing to note is I did not use a lot of that green. I put a few spots on my tree, in that lower tree, so I could let that sink in and let my eye adjust to it and see how it looks. Now I'm putting in the foliage on the tree, blocking that in with more of an olivey green. I think it may be even the same green that I touched into the bark down below. And I'm just shaping out the foliage in random ways. I don't want it to look like a popsicle. And you can tell I'm using a lot of paint. I'm allowing that paint to really stand out and create contour. That creates movement and vitality in your painting. It's one of the reasons I like impasto painting, and I have no trouble going over my wet paint with more wet paint. It's all about the creaminess. It's all about the brush and how the pressure you put on it. Thicker paint like this, when you're going over other with more paint, that stiff brush helps because you can control the pressure a little better. But if it's not working, it's probably your paint is too creamy or not creamy enough. You don't want it runny, you want it creamy, like melted butter. Now I'm actually using a lighter shade of green to put some highlights on the blocked in clumps I put in. And I add that same green to my trunk again. And I'm coming in with a little darker color as well on the shaded side of that tree at the bottom to create some more depth. And in these colors, again, this is not a new color just for the tree. It's a color I used in the background. It's a color I've used elsewhere. So you can see how it's starting to bring shape and movement and variety to that tree that's enjoyable to look at. So this is a very small flat brush that I'm using, but it is a small painting. So it requires that smaller brush, and impasto painting is typically or often done with smaller brush strokes when you're doing this kind of work. It can also be done, of course, with big broad brush strokes and even people who use their fingers and such. But now I'm going to bring in some nice dark color at the bottom. That's the same dark color I used on the ground to add a nice shadow effect to the tree. And so the method I'm using with these smaller brush strokes in Impasto incorporates the broken color approach. And that's what allows me to use all the colors that I have everywhere else in the painting, which creates that synergy between this tree and the rest of the painting. Small brush strokes, introducing small bits of color that combine visually together to create the color of the tree, rather than just going with one dark brush stroke all the way down the tree. On the dark side, one medium color down the middle, one light color down the sunny side. It's this broken color that creates the effect that I enjoy making, and I incorporate it a lot in my paintings. I'm going to use the same kind of techniques in the tree. I'm bringing in a darker green to the leaves on the tree because I want to create a little moodier, darker effect on this side of the creek that I'm working on. So it's going to be in deeper, darker shadows. So again, right over the wet paint, I'm going in with my darker green, and I can do that because of the creaminess of the paint I'm putting down and the amount of pressure. I'm not over pressuring it, and I'm also have a brush that's stiff that allows me to control that pressure. This has all been done in one session, so I'm putting this wet paint on top of wet paint. It's thick, it's creamy, which is the key to making it work. It's important to note that I do the tree in small steps. I don't go in one shot and do all the leaves, completely in all the different hues. I didn't go in one shot and paint the tree and the bark in just one shot. I did a little bit, let it sit while I worked on something else, came back to it. It allows my eye to adjust to the rest of the painting and get a feel for the overall painting as well. So when I go in and put the marks in, it goes along with everything else. Now I'm putting in darks right here at the bottom of the tree. And what I'm trying to do here is I want to lose the edge. I want to lose the bottom of the tree and that darkness on the ground, so that you don't know where the tree ends and the ground begins and vice versa. That's that lost edge, and it creates a nice effect. And again, I'm going through the colors that I'm using are all colors I've used at other places, putting a darker, moodier feel to this tree and this bark. And so what I'm doing is every time I use a color somewhere else on the painting, I'll bring that over and put a little bit of it on the bark of the tree to see how I like it. And again, I'll go away, and if I like it, I'll put more on. If I don't, then I'll cover it up with another small little stroke. And that's the broken color effect that allows me to, all these colors together, the mind and the eye just melds them into a color that it just feels natural, rather than, again, painting one big swath of a color. You can't get this effect with one big brush stroke. You only get this kind of effect with a broken color approach. For this bark and for these leaves, I'm using a very small brush. Again, the size of the painting and the size of the object I'm painting as well. If I was doing this on a 36-inch canvas, I would use a larger brush. Select the right tool for the job. Got a little challenge for you. I included a little bit of alizarin crimson in this tree and ultramarine blue right out of the tubes, both of them. Give it a shot and look for them. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. This is the Big Toad, and I am out.